The silent strike. The stars went dark first, not all at once, but in a precise, calculated pattern that swept across Earth's night sky like a cosmic curtain. Within 30 seconds, every orbital satellite had been disabled, leaving humanity effectively blind to what loomed above. In the headquarters of the Global Space Command in Geneva, Admiral Claire Wilson watched as screen after screen went dark, her weathered face illuminated by the emergency backup lights. "It's happening," she whispered, reaching for the secure quantum communication device that hadn't existed in any official record until this moment. "Initiate Protocol Lighthouse." Across the planet, hidden facilities hummed to life, responding to a signal that had been waiting years to be sent. Humanity had prepared for this day, not because they knew it would come, but because they understood that in an infinite universe, preparation was survival. The Archean Collective's warships appeared moments later, their massive forms eclipsing what remained of the natural starlight. They were beautiful in their terrible efficiency, living metal that flowed like liquid mercury, forming and reforming into optimal combat configurations. Each vessel was the size of a small city, housing millions of beings from dozens of species united under a single banner: the elimination of humanity as a potential threat to galactic stability. High above Earth's atmosphere, Supreme Commander X-427 of the Collective observed the planet through sensors that could detect a single heartbeat from orbit. The beam's crystalline form pulsed with waves of deep purple satisfaction. Everything was proceeding according to their simulations. "Broadcast the message," X-427 commanded, their thoughts translating instantly through the ship's neural interface. "Let them understand why they must end." The message reached every device capable of receiving signals on Earth simultaneously. In perfect local languages, the Collective explained humanity's crimes: rapid technological advancement without proper evolutionary maturity, genetic potential for aggressive expansion, and most damning of all, unpredictability. The Collective's simulation showed a 97.3% probability the humans would destabilize the careful balance of galactic civilization within 3 centuries if left unchecked. What the Collective didn't understand, couldn't understand, was that humanity's unpredictability was not a flaw to be corrected, but the very source of their strength. In a secured bunker beneath the Himalayas, Dr. Sarah Chen watched the alien message with an expression that might have been mistaken for calm by anyone who didn't know her well. But her colleague, Dr. Marcus Patel, saw the slight tremor in her hands as she pulled up the quantum defense schematics they'd spent the last decade perfecting. "They think we're primitive," Sarah said, her fingers flying across the holographic interface. "They think we've been sitting here, blind to the universe around us." A rare smile crossed her face. "They have no idea about Project Oracle." Marcus moved to his own station, initiating the warming sequence for the quantum cores. "How long until they realize?" "They won't," Sarah replied. "Not until it's too late." The Archean ships began their descent through Earth's atmosphere, their formations perfect, their strategies executed with millisecond precision. They had conquered 17 potentially threatening civilizations before Earth, each time following the same tested protocols. Their victory was mathematically certain. But mathematics had never fully captured the human spirit. In cities across the globe, people reacted to the alien ultimatum not with the predicted panic, but with a strange, almost eerie purpose. Years of science fiction had prepared humanity culturally for this moment. Thousands of stories had played out this scenario in the collective imagination. Instead of running, people moved with determination to predetermined positions. Emergency response networks activated with practiced efficiency. The collective's first sign that something was wrong came when their sensors detected unusual quantum fluctuations emanating from key points around the planet. X-427's crystalline form flickered with confusion as their perfect formations began to waver. "Impossible," they'd broadcast to their command staff. "Their technology is centuries behind our own. They cannot possibly." The Supreme Commander's transmission cut off as the first phase of humanity's defense grid activated. Dr. Chen's quantum interference web, powered by generators hidden in locations across the planet, began its work. The seemingly primitive human satellites that had been so easily disabled were never meant for communication. They were nodes in a vast network designed to turn the collective's own advanced technology against them. In orbit, the magnificent alien ships began to stutter in their movements, their living metal struggling to maintain coherence as quantum fields disrupted their neural networks. The collective had built their entire civilization on predictable, mathematically perfect technology. They had never conceived that a species might weaponize uncertainty itself. Admiral Wilson stood in the command center, watching as the first real-time data began flowing in through their quantum-shielded systems. "Send word to all defense forces," she ordered, her voice steady. "Operation Chaos begins now." Around the world, hidden hangars opened, revealing aircraft that had been built in secret, incorporating both reverse-engineered alien technology and uniquely human innovations. Unlike the collected ships, these vessels were designed to thrive in uncertainty, their systems actually becoming more effective as quantum chaos increased. The alien invasion had begun with absolute confidence in their superiority. But as their perfect formations disintegrated and their advanced weapons turned unreliable, the Archean collective faced a terrifying realization. They had gravely miscalculated. The very unpredictability they had condemned in humanity had become humanity's greatest weapon. And this was only the beginning of humanity's response. In her bunker, Dr. Chen activated the final sequence of Project Oracle, her hands steady now as she worked. "They thought we were isolated, vulnerable," she said to Marcus, who was coordinating with defense teams worldwide. "They never considered that we might have been watching them for years, learning their weaknesses, preparing our countermeasures." Above them, the greatest fleet the galaxy had ever assembled was about to learn why humanity's unpredictability made them not a threat to civilization, but its next great evolution. The battle for Earth had begun, but not in the way anyone, human or alien, had expected. And in the chaos of those first few hours, as humanity's carefully planned defensive measures collided with the collective's perfect strategies, the true nature of the conflict began to emerge. This wasn't just a fight for survival. It was a clash between two fundamentally different ways of understanding the universe itself. The silent strike had failed. Now came the thunder, the hidden protocol. Supreme Commander Zex 427's crystalline form pulsed with unprecedented patterns of distress as their flagship systems continued to deteriorate. The quantum interference was spreading through their fleet like a virus, corrupting the perfect synchronization that had made the Archean collective invincible for millennia. "Impossible," they broadcast again, their thought patterns becoming increasingly chaotic. Their technological level was verified. They shouldn't have quantum manipulation capabilities for at least 2 centuries. In the neural network linking the collected ships, confusion spread like a contagion. Their sensors, designed to process reality through pure mathematical certainty, were reporting contradictory data. Human vessels were appearing and disappearing from their scans, seeming to exist in multiple states simultaneously. Deep beneath the Himalayas, Dr. Sarah Chen monitored the effects of Project Oracle with grim satisfaction. The quantum interference web was working better than even their most optimistic simulations had predicted. They built their entire civilization on certainty, she explained to the Global Defense Council, connected through quantum-encrypted channels. Their technology requires predictable outcomes to function. We're not just disrupting their systems, we're challenging their entire worldview. Admiral Wilson's voice came through the secure link. "Dr. Chen, we're seeing something unusual in their fleet formations. Can you confirm?" Sarah pulled up the latest sensor data, her eyes widening slightly. The collected ships were attempting to adapt, but in doing so, they were revealing something unexpected. "They're trying to compensate by increasing neural synchronization across their fleet," she said. "They're making themselves more vulnerable, not less." In orbit, the collective's magnificent vessels began moving in new patterns, their living metal flowing into configurations that defied conventional physics. It was beautiful, but it was also desperate. Each ship was now connected more deeply to the others, sharing processing power in an attempt to overcome the quantum interference. Dr. Marcus Patel, monitoring the energy readings, suddenly straightened in his chair. "Sarah, look at these patterns. They're not just sharing processing power, they're merging their consciousness. The entire fleet is becoming a single entity." This was something they hadn't predicted. The collective's response to uncertainty was to eliminate it entirely, creating a unified consciousness that could theoretically process enough information to overcome the quantum interference. But in doing so, they were gambling everything on a single strategy. Admiral Wilson's voice crackled through again. "Dr. Chen, we need options. They're preparing something big." Sarah's fingers flew across her holographic interface, running calculations. "They're making a fundamental mistake," she said, a note of excitement creeping into her voice. "They think the solution to chaos is perfect order. But that's exactly what makes them vulnerable to Phase 2. Phase 2 of Project Oracle had been considered too dangerous to test before the invasion. It would use the collective's own neural network against them, introducing controlled uncertainty directly into their merged consciousness. The risks were enormous. They had no way of knowing how an alien hive mind would react to forced quantum uncertainty. "We need authorization," Sarah said to the Defense Council. "Phase 2 could end this now, but it could also drive them insane. We'd be attacking not just their ships, but their minds." There was a moment of heavy silence on the channel. Then Admiral Wilson spoke, her voice firm. "The collective came here to eliminate us because they feared our unpredictability. Show them why they were right to be afraid." Authorization granted. Sarah looked at Marcus, who nodded grimly. Together, they began the Phase 2 initialization sequence. Around the planet, hidden quantum generators spooled up to full power, their energy focused on a single purpose: introducing controlled chaos into the most ordered minds in the galaxy. The effect was immediate and spectacular. The collective's merged consciousness, spanning millions of individuals across thousands of ships, encountered something it had never been designed to process: true uncertainty injected directly into its neural network. The living metal of their ships began to ripple and twist, reflecting the confusion spreading through their shared mind. In orbit, Supreme Commander Zex 427 experienced something unprecedented in their species' history: doubt. Not just strategic uncertainty, but fundamental doubt about the nature of reality itself. The quantum interference was forcing their merged consciousness to hold contradictory thoughts simultaneously, to experience multiple timelines at once. How? Their thought patterns scattered across the neural network. How do humans live like this? How do they function without certainty? The answer, of course, was the very thing the collective had feared. Humans didn't just function with uncertainty. They thrived on it. Every human invention, every breakthrough, every leap forward had come from embracing the unknown, from being comfortable with doubt. As the collective's fleet struggled with this forced evolution in thinking, Earth's defense forces prepared for the next phase of their counterattack. The experimental ships that had been hiding in quantum uncertainty revealed themselves, their designs incorporating both the precision of alien technology and the adaptability of human innovation. "All defense squadrons, prepare to engage." Admiral Wilson's order went out. "Remember your training. The enemy expects perfection. Show them the power of improvisation." Dr. Chen watched as humanity's response to the invasion transformed from desperate defense into something else entirely. They weren't just fighting the collective. They were teaching them something profound about the nature of existence itself. "They came here thinking they needed to eliminate us to preserve galactic stability," she said to Marcus. "But they're about to learn that true stability comes from adapting to chaos, not eliminating it." The battle was far from over, but its nature had fundamentally changed. The collective had arrived as invaders, certain of their superiority. Now they were facing not just military defeat, but a challenge to the very foundations of their civilization. And somewhere in the vast neural network that connected their fleet, new patterns were beginning to emerge, patterns that looked remarkably like human thought. The counter-offensive. Captain Maya Rodriguez stood in the launch bay of the quantum response vessel, Uncertainty, her experimental fighter prepped for what could be humanity's most daring military operation. Around her, 24 other pilots performed final checks on their aircraft, vessels that represented the perfect fusion of human ingenuity and reversed-engineered alien technology. Remember, she broadcast to her squadron, "These ships work better the more unpredictable you are. Don't think like a military pilot. Think like a human." The hangar doors opened, revealing a sky filled with the twisted forms of arcing vessels, still struggling with the quantum interference. The once perfect living metal of their ships now rippled with conflicting patterns, like the surface of a troubled sea. In the Himalayan Command Center, Dr. Chen monitored the launch preparations. Captain Rodriguez, she called over the quantum encrypted channel. Phase 2 is working better than expected. The collective's neural network is experiencing cascading uncertainty. Your window of opportunity is opening. Understood, Maya replied, her hands sliding over her ship's controls. The neural interface, so similar to the collective's technology, but fundamentally different in design, responded to her thoughts. Unlike the alien version that sought perfect synchronization, this human adaptation thrived on creative impulse and intuition. Quantum Squadron. Launch. 25 fighters shot from hidden bases around the globe, their quantum drives allowing them to exist in multiple probable states simultaneously. To the collective sensors, they appeared as ghost images, probability clouds that defied prediction. Supreme Commander Zex 427, still struggling with the forced uncertainty flooding their neural network, detected the approaching human fighters. But for the first time in their existence, they couldn't calculate an optimal response. The humans were everywhere and nowhere, their attack patterns following no discernible logic. Impossible, Zex 427 broadcast, their thoughts fragmenting across the hive mind. Their movements violate every principle of tactical efficiency. Maya's squadron demonstrated exactly why the collective's assessment was wrong. Each pilot flew not according to practiced formations or calculated strategies, but with human intuition enhanced by quantum technology. They looped through impossible spaces, their ship's probability drives allowing them to appear precisely where the collective's predictive algorithms said they couldn't be. Target their neural network nodes, Maya commanded. Dr. Chen's data shows they're the weak points now that they've merged their consciousness. The human fighters struck with surgical precision, their quantum-tipped weapons introducing even more uncertainty into the collective's already struggling hive mind. Each hit caused cascading effects through the neural network, forcing the alien consciousness to process even more contradictory information. In the Himalayan bunker, Dr. Chen watched the battle unfold with growing excitement. Their mistake was fundamental, she explained to Admiral Wilson over the secure channel. They built their entire civilization on the assumption that perfect order was the highest form of existence. They never understood that chaos and order are two sides of the same coin. The Admiral's voice was thoughtful. And we're teaching them that lesson now, aren't we? More than that, Sarah replied, watching as new patterns emerged in the collective's neural network. We're forcing them to evolve. Look at these readings. Parts of their hive mind are beginning to adapt, to embrace uncertainty rather than fight it. On the battlefield, Maya and her squadron pressed their advantage. The collected ships, their living metal now pulsing with chaotic patterns, struggled to mount an effective defense. Some vessels seemed to be fighting themselves, their merged consciousness torn between the old way of perfect order and the new, emerging understanding of chaos value. Captain, one of Maya's pilots called out, "I'm seeing something strange. Some of the alien ships, they're trying to communicate directly, outside their neural network." Maya saw it too. Several collective vessels had broken formation, their living metal reconfiguring into shapes that seemed almost experimental. They were trying to mimic the unpredictability of the human fighters, learning and adapting in real time. Dr. Chen's voice came through with urgency. Maya, this is crucial. Those ships, they're the ones embracing the change. Their consciousness is evolving. If we can isolate them from the main hive mind. Already on it, Maya responded, directing her squadron to create a quantum barrier between the evolving ships and the main collective fleet. It was a dangerous maneuver, requiring split-second timing and perfect coordination, exactly the kind of impossible task that humans excelled at. The battle had become more than a simple military engagement. It was now a race to save those members of the collective who were awakening to a new way of thinking, while preventing the main hive mind from forcing them back into rigid conformity. Supreme Commander Zex 427, watching their perfect invasion crumble into chaos, made one final attempt to restore order. They directed all remaining power to the neural network, trying to overwhelm the quantum interference through sheer force of will. But in doing so, they only accelerated the evolution they were trying to prevent. All ships, Maya broadcast, final attack pattern. Show them exactly why humanity's unpredictability is our greatest strength. The human squadron split into seemingly random groups, their quantum drives creating a web of probability fields that encompassed the entire battlefield. To the collective sensors, it appeared as though reality itself was breaking down, forcing their consciousness to either adapt or shatter. In that moment, as human ingenuity clashed with alien order, the true nature of the conflict became clear. This wasn't just a battle for survival. It was a battle for the very future of consciousness in the galaxy. And humanity, with its embrace of chaos and uncertainty, was leading the way toward something entirely new. The enemy within. In the vast neural network of the Archean collective, a civil war of consciousness had begun. The quantum interference from Earth's defenses had done more than disrupt their technology. It had sparked an evolutionary leap in their shared mind. Through the chaos of battle, new thoughts emerged, spreading like wildfire through the hive mind. Supreme Commander Zex 427 felt their control slipping as more vessels broke formation, their crews embracing the strange new patterns of thought. The perfect crystalline structure of their form now pulsed with conflicting colors, reflecting the battle raging within their own consciousness. This is corruption, they broadcast to the fleet. The humans have infected us with their chaos. We must purge. But for the first time in the collective's history, a command was met with questioning rather than obedience. Captain Nexer 19, commanding one of the separated vessels, dared to respond. No, Supreme Commander, this isn't corruption. It's evolution. The humans aren't destroying order. They're showing us a greater truth. Order and chaos are not enemies. They're partners in a dance we never understood. In the Himalayan Command Center, Dr. Chen and her team watched in fascination as new patterns emerged in the collective's neural network. What had started as a defensive measure had triggered something unprecedented, a philosophical revolution within an alien hive mind. Admiral Wilson, Sarah called over the secure channel. We're seeing a significant shift in the collective's consciousness structure. The quantum interference isn't just disrupting their technology anymore. It's creating new neural pathways. They're learning to think like us. Admiral Wilson's response was thoughtful. Can we use this? Turn their own evolution against their invasion plans. Better than that, Sarah replied, her fingers flying over her holographic controls. Captain Rodriguez and her squadron have already isolated the evolving ships. If we can protect them long enough, they might convince others. This could end without further bloodshed. High above Earth, Maya's quantum squadron maintained their protective formation around the separated collective vessels. The human fighters danced through probability fields, their unpredictable movements creating a barrier that the main fleet couldn't penetrate. Dr. Chen, Maya called, we're picking up unusual transmissions from the protected ships. They're trying to communicate with their fleet, but it's different from their usual neural network signals. Sarah analyzed the data, her eyes widening. They're not just communicating, they're teaching. They're trying to share their new understanding with the others. Captain Nexer 19 is leading them. Within the collective's hive mind, Nexer 19's influence spread like ripples in a pond. The captain's consciousness, forever changed by exposure to human unpredictability, broadcast new concepts that challenged millennia of rigid thinking. Look at them, Nexer 19 transmitted to the fleet. Humans don't just survive chaos, they harness it. Every random thought, every creative impulse, every illogical decision becomes a strength. We've been wrong about them, wrong about ourselves. Supreme Commander Zex 427 fought against the growing rebellion, attempting to reassert control over the hive mind. But their efforts only highlighted the fundamental shift taking place. The more they tried to impose order, the more ships broke away, drawn to the new possibilities that Nexer 19 and the other evolved consciousness represented. Dr. Chen watched the battle of minds with growing excitement. "This is beyond anything we could have hoped for," she told Marcus. "The collective isn't just learning to accept uncertainty. They're discovering the power of individual thought within their shared consciousness." In orbit, the main collective fleet's formations continued to deteriorate. Ships that had once moved with perfect synchronization now hesitated, their crews caught between ancient certainty and new possibility. The living metal of their vessels reflected their inner turmoil, flowing into shapes that defied their traditional designs. Maya's squadron maintained their protective screen, but the nature of their mission had changed. They were no longer just defending Earth. They were protecting the birth of a new form of consciousness. "All ships," Maya broadcast to her pilots, "adjust your quantum fields. Let's show them what cooperative individuality looks like. Every pilot, choose your own pattern, but make it work with the whole." The human fighters demonstrated exactly what Nexer 19 was trying to teach the collective. Each ship flew its own unique path, yet somehow their chaotic movements formed a perfect defense. It was a living example of how individual chaos could create collective harmony. Supreme Commander Zex 427 made one final attempt to salvage their invasion. They directed the remaining loyal ships to power up their primary weapons, preparing to destroy the evolved vessels along with their human protectors. But the command fell flat. Throughout the neural network, more and more minds awakened to the new possibilities. The weapon systems powered down as ship after ship chose evolution over destruction. "You must see it now," Supreme Commander Nexer 19 broadcast. "The humans were never the threat we believed them to be. Their unpredictability, their chaos, it's not a weakness to be eliminated. It's the key to the next stage of our evolution." In the Himalayan bunker, Dr. Chen prepared to initiate the final phase of Project Oracle. But as she watched the transformation spreading through the collective's consciousness, she realized that the humans' greatest weapon had never been their quantum technology. It had been their humanity itself, their ability to embrace uncertainty, to find strength in diversity, to turn apparent weakness into unprecedented power. They had defeated the galaxy's greatest military force not through superior firepower, but by showing them a better way to exist. The invasion of Earth was ending, not with the destruction of either side, but with the birth of something entirely new. And in the quantum probability fields high above the planet, human and alien consciousness began to dance together, writing the first chapter of a very different future. Victory and understanding. The first light of dawn broke over Earth's horizon, casting golden rays across a battlefield transformed. The Archean Collective's once perfect fleet now hung in orbit like a scattered constellation, their living metal vessels reflecting the sun in ways their creators had never intended. Each ship pulsed with new patterns of thought, their varied forms adapting to accommodate the revolution in consciousness that had swept through their neural network. Supreme Commander Zex 427 floated in their command chamber, their crystalline form now a symphony of shifting colors. The rigid patterns that had defined their existence for millennia had given way to something more fluid, more alive. They were the last holdout, the final barrier between the old way of thinking and the new evolution that called to their species. "I don't understand," they'd broadcast, their thoughts reaching not just their own fleet but the human defenders as well. How can chaos lead to strength? How can uncertainty create stability? Dr. Sarah Chen, standing in her command center beneath the Himalayas, smiled as she prepared to answer. But before she could, Captain Maya Rodriguez's voice came through the quantum channel. "Let me show you," Maya said, her quantum fighter breaking formation to approach the Supreme Commander's flagship. "Watch my ship, Commander. Don't analyze, don't calculate, just observe." Maya's fighter began a series of maneuvers that defied conventional physics. The quantum drive allowed her to exist in multiple probable states simultaneously, creating patterns that looked random at first glance, but contained a deeper harmony. It was a dance of possibilities, each movement both precise and unpredictable. "This is how humans think," Maya explained as she flew. "Each decision, each moment, contains infinite possibilities. We don't try to eliminate uncertainty. We embrace it. We let it guide us to solutions we could never calculate." Captain Nexer 19, now the leader of the evolved collective ships, added their own demonstration. Their vessel's living metal flowed into new configurations, mimicking the quantum uncertainty of Maya's flight patterns. Other ships joined in, and soon the space above Earth became a theater of impossible beauty as human and alien craft danced together through probability fields. In the neural network that connected the collective, something remarkable happened. The rigid structures of their shared consciousness began to flow like their ship's living metal, creating new pathways, new ways of thinking. Supreme Commander Zex 427 felt their resistance crumbling as understanding finally dawned. "We came here to prevent chaos," they broadcast, their thoughts carrying a new tone of wonder. But chaos was never the enemy. We were fighting against the very force that drives evolution itself. Dr. Chen watched the transformation with tears in her eyes. Project Oracle had succeeded beyond their wildest expectations. They hadn't just defended Earth, they had sparked an evolutionary leap in an entire civilization. "This is why we built Project Oracle," she explained to all who could hear. "Not just as a weapon, but as a bridge. We knew that any species capable of reaching Earth would have to be introduced to uncertainty gradually, taught to see its beauty rather than its threat." Admiral Wilson's voice came through, carrying the weight of command, but also a deep satisfaction. "The question now is, what happens next? How do we move forward from this moment?" The answer came from an unexpected source. The collective's neural network, now transformed by its exposure to human consciousness, began to reconfigure itself. Instead of a rigid hierarchy, with Supreme Commander Zex 427 at its peak, it became something more organic, more adaptable. "We propose a new kind of cooperation," Nexer 19 broadcast. "Not the submission we originally demanded, but a true partnership. Humanity has shown us that the greatest strength comes not from eliminating differences, but from embracing them." The living metal of the collected ships began to shift again, but this time not into weapons or defense systems. They formed structures that bridged the space between vessels, creating a physical manifestation of the new connection being forged between species. Maya brought her fighter alongside one of these bridges, her quantum field harmonizing with the alien technology in ways that should have been impossible. "We accept," she said simply, speaking for humanity with the directness that characterized their species. Dr. Chen and her team began adapting Project Oracle's protocols, turning what had been a defense system into a communication network. The quantum interference that had disrupted the collective's consciousness now became a medium for sharing thoughts between humans and aliens, each species maintaining their unique identity while learning from the other. Supreme Commander Zex 427, their crystalline form now radiating patterns never before seen in their species, made the final proclamation. "The invasion of Earth is over," they broadcast to all. "But something far more significant has begun. We came to prevent what we saw as a threat to galactic stability. Instead, we discovered that true stability comes not from rigid order, but from the delicate balance between chaos and structure." As the sun rose fully over Earth, humanity and the collective began the work of building something new. The quantum probability fields that had been weapons became highways between stars. The neural networks that had enforced conformity became forums for sharing ideas across species. The war that was meant to last a day had indeed ended quickly, not with the destruction of either side, but with a victory far more profound than mere survival. In learning to understand each other, both humanity and the collective had evolved beyond their own limitations. And in the vast darkness between the stars, word began to spread of a new force in the galaxy, a partnership between order and chaos, between certainty and possibility, between the familiar and the unknown. The day Earth fought back had become the day the galaxy learned to grow beyond its fears. The future, like humanity itself, would be gloriously unpredictable.